Well, now that we have the recording in progress, we can move on, and we are pleased and honored to have Reverend Indira Hutta with us. And she's back with us. We've enjoyed her before, and we're certainly glad to have you. And she's going to be talking about gratitude in the dark times and the hard stuff. And you know what? I think we're all ready to hear that. uh, Particularly after all the brouhaha that's been going on in the country the last couple of months. Reverend Indira is a New Thought minister, a spiritual counselor, and educator. She's a Reiki master and a shamanic practitioner. And I had to have a conversation with her about her shamanic practices just to make sure I knew what that was. And I'm sure she'll be glad to share that during the coffee talk with you, that conversation. She has a master's degree in education, and she also sponsors a support group for women who have loved ones who have been incarcerated. She's a local with us and works at Unity Village. Welcome back, Indira.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, I'm so grateful to be here. I am coming off of a few days of Fillmore Festival. And so I'm going to share with you a little bit about that in today's talk. But first, I want to tell you the story. So there was this elderly couple, Bill and Helen, and they were starting to reach their mid 90s, and they had just finally come to the realization that it was time for them to stop driving. But before they hung up their keys, they decided that they needed to take one last drive. So Bill got the keys and got behind the wheel, and Helen took a seat on the passenger side. And so driving down the road, Helen thought she noticed that Bill had run a red light, but kind of unable to actually prove it, she said nothing. And then he did it again. And this time Helen was sure, but she again decided to say nothing. Maybe it was just a fluke. And the third time she said, Bill, honey, do you realize that you have run three red lights? He looked over and he said, Good Lord, Helen, am I driving? And so, and so Bill reminds us to ask who or what is driving our experiences. And so when I first planned this talk, I was absolutely convinced that I knew what I was doing. And I think that every minister goes through this. We plan a talk, we're like, I know what I'm doing, I know what I'm going to talk about. And then the moment I hit the send button on the email to your planning team, I began having second thoughts and third thoughts and fourth doubts. And because I didn't really think that anyone else in the world was actually having doubts about expressing gratitude, especially through hard times. And then this last Friday, while I was working the Fillmore Festival, I was having lunch with several New Thought students and a Unity minister who had been a minister for more than 25 years. And she said, you know, during those hard times, we just have to remind ourselves either we're spirit or we're not. And she goes, I don't know about you guys, but I vacillate between being spirit and not being spirit. She goes, and I do it a lot. And she said, and when I'm not in spirit, it's typically because things are not going my way. And she said, and you know what? I'm really never grateful for that experience either. And I was like, oh, there it is. Okay, the confirmation I needed that it's not just me. A Unity minister of 25 years also experiences this. And so here I go. I'm going to share with you some recent revelations that I had. About a year ago, my roommate told me that in 1 year that she would need to move down to take care of her father in his home and to prepare his home for sale. And so I had known for several months that this change was going to happen. And as I went through each month, I spent time and energy affirming that I was going to have my own place to live by myself and all the abundance I needed to sustain it. And I don't know if you guys have seen the housing market, but it is very difficult to even qualify for an apartment anymore. And the rent is high and it's hard to buy houses. There's just a lot. It makes it very difficult. But my faith was firm. And so as months went by, my intentions stayed strong, and yet nothing changed. I simply did not make enough to qualify for an apartment. And in fact, I was denied by every single apartment complex I applied for based solely on my income, in spite of the fact that I worked a professional full-time job. So my dark night did not come on immediately. It would start as kind of like a partly cloudy day, and then it would turn stormy, and then it would clear up and be sunny for a while, and then move back to partly cloudy, and then go into the darkness. But by April, I learned that I was going to need to move out before the middle of July because we needed to paint and clean and do all the things that you do when you're moving out. And 3 weeks before the date I needed to be out by, I still had no place to live and I had no prospects for better income. And this brought out all of those abandonment wounds that, that we have in the Western world, right? They came out to play in the most painful ways. I began to re-grieve the loss of my parents and my siblings who would have absolutely given me a safe place to live if they were still alive. And I kept asking myself, like, how could I be so alone and so vulnerable? I have advanced degrees, I'm a servant of the people, I've done everything I was taught by society, by education, by religion. I'd done everything that I knew to do to be safe. And here I was about to be homeless and unable to support myself in that situation. And I was angry. I was so angry. I felt lied to. I felt betrayed. I felt unloved and unwanted and unsupported. And I spent several nights in the months of May and June wide awake, crying and screaming at God, like literally screaming out to God for betraying me, for lying to me. And that dark night of the soul had come fully into my experience by that time. And whether those words were true or not, that was the space of me not being in spirit, right? That what my friend at lunch said to me just the other day. I had no concept that I was actually being divinely supported. And I absolutely did not have the ability to be grateful for any of it. And one Friday morning, after another night of tears, I woke feeling completely defeated. I had no more fight left in me, and I was exhausted in every way. And so I surrendered. And as I imagine most people who surrender difficult things like that would feel, I I was afraid of what that surrender would look like. And yet at the same time, I didn't have the energy to care. I had fought my last battle. And so full of shame and with a eyeballs full of tears, I called a friend who knew what was going on. And she had already offered me a room in her home. And gasping through the tears, I asked her if the offer was still open. And of course it was. Of course it was. My fear of being unloved and unsupported was starting to wane a little bit in that moment when she said, Indira, I have a safe place for you to lay your head and to live your life until everything changes. But my anger was still really, really real. That anger was racing through my veins as quickly and powerfully as my blood cells were. I wanted my own space. I wanted my own place. I had picked out an apartment about an hour outside of this area. And instead, I was moving to Belton, Missouri. And no offense to Belton, but it wasn't where I wanted to be. I wanted to be closer to where I grew up, where closer to where some of my family was, where my grandson is. And in early July, with the help of some very lovely friends, I moved into a room that is bigger than I've ever had in my entire life, with more than enough space to fit everything that I love and that I treasure. A space that is quiet because she is also a minister, a place that is safe. And I began to settle in. And about a week after I moved in, I was offered a job with higher pay and doing something that, oddly enough, I'm innately wired to do. And so right now I'm working part-time for both Unity organizations. I do part of my time with Unity Worldwide Ministries and part of my time with Unity World Headquarters. But when I go full-time this fall, I'll be making more than enough to qualify for my own apartment on my own. So my dark night of the soul, it was deep and it was powerful and it was transformative. And interestingly enough, in a matter of a few days, that darkness had lifted, not in time for me to qualify for my own apartment, Still don't understand what that's about, but the darkness is still lifted. And it took me a week or two to really process all of these changes that had happened because I'd moved in here on a Saturday, and by Wednesday I was offered this new job. But when I really sat with it in meditation and the silence, I had this massive aha moment. And the first one was that I do have people who love me, who don't want to see me unhoused. I have, it wasn't my family of origin, no, but it was definitely my family of choice because most of my family of origin has left this physical existence. But family is family, right? Family's family, and I am grateful. She loves me like a sister, and I love her back exactly the same. Second, unknowingly, this job offer that I got with UWH was actually an answered prayer that I had forgotten about because I was so wrapped up in my pain. But my retirement plan, it's like my retirement plan because I don't think I'll ever retire, is to open a small shop and to hold classes and retreats in the mountains of Taos. And this is exactly the job she offered me here. And now I'm going to get that experience that I lacked. And I am grateful for that. And had I moved to where I wanted to, I could not have done this new job without an hour commute one way. Living in Belton, my commute is 20 minutes. And so for that, I am grateful as well. And I am grateful for that dark night and the events that led to that dark night because I recognize that much of what I was experiencing was because I wanted everything to be different than it actually was. I was fighting what was happening because I wanted it to be different. So this weekend, I heard a quote by Unity co-founder Myrtle Fillmore, and she said, "Pray for light and for courage to walk in the light." And man, did that just hit me right in my heart center. And so as I'm having all these aha moments, it's been what? It's been about a month, about 5, 6 weeks since I've moved in here. And as I'm really starting to express gratitude for the whole experience, including recognizing my own resistance, I wondered if I was actually inviting more darkness and resistance into me. And that strong answer came as a no, no, you're not. And what I actually heard and what I actually feel is that when we express gratitude for the darkness, that we're expressing gratitude for the awareness of being in that dark night of the soul. We're expressing gratitude for the realization that that dark night makes us feel disconnected from the power of the universe, the power of God, but we're not really disconnected. It's that awareness, that expressing gratitude that my prayers were answered in a way that I could have never planned for, that actually being here right now, my roommate is out of town for 10 days and I'm able to keep her home safe and take care of her kitten and do all the things that I need to do to support her. I'm expressing gratitude for the realization that I was in resistance to how things really were. And always having that recognition of that resistance helps me to be less in resistance the next time things get really shaken up. And I'm expressing gratitude for the light after that dark night. And I'm expressing gratitude for the light that I saw as I was coming out of the darkness. And I'm expressing gratitude for the entire experience of the dark and the light. One thing that we know as we get older and as we have more experiences of life is that hard times and dark nights are always going to happen. They are. They're just a part of life. But so is the light. The light is just as much a part of this life and this experience. And the light is always also going to happen. The darkness is not forever, and thank goodness for that. I view the darkness a lot like weight training for the soul. And if you've ever lifted weights, you know that you hit that fatigue time, that surrender time, and you know it's time to go rest. Moving through the darkness, knowing that it is temporary, yet still praying for that light gives us the strength and the courage to walk in the light. We survived the darkness, we survived the weight training, and we can now walk with our heads held high in the light. And so, as we watch our country and our world move in and out of that darkness, we give ourselves to permission to walk courageously in the light, knowing that one, we are giving permission for others to do the same, and two, that the dark night will be a little easier. The next one that we have and the next one we have will be a little bit easier thanks to our realization and our gratitude for all of it. And that gives us hope. So I invite us all now to move into a period of meditation, taking those nice, deep cleansing breaths. And if it's comfortable for you to close your eyes, I invite you to do so. If it's more comfortable for you to just lower your gaze to something beneath you, like your feet or your knees, I invite you to do the same. Whatever's comfortable. And we invite into our awareness that light, the light of God, the light of the universe, the light of life itself. So we take that nice deep breath. We hold it at the top for just a moment. We allow that light to really light us up. Then we exhale when we're ready, fully and completely. We are going to allow these words of Marianne Williamson to remind us of the importance of recognizing the darkness in the darkness and the light. And we're going to allow these words to transmute any feelings of darkness, any feelings of loss of hope, any feelings of resistance that we may be experiencing right now, regardless if it's in our personal lives, it's in the depths of our soul, or if it's in our awareness of what's happening around us. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. And as we let our own light shine, we consciously give other people permission to do the same. We are liberated from our own fear, and our presence automatically liberates others. So we'll take a moment to sit in the silence and allow those words to transmute and transform. And when you're ready, take that nice deep breath, firmly implanting that light wherever it's needed most, expressing gratitude for the darkness, for the rest, for the resistance, for the weight training, and expressing gratitude for the embracing and the embodiment of the light, and recognizing the beautiful dance that they both do within us and within our lives. That restoration of balance. And recognizing that it is all part of this beautiful experience of life. One more deep breath, and when you're ready, open your eyes. And I invite Kyle to bring our music. Thanks so much for giving me the opportunity to share today. I appreciate it. I love being here with you all.
And we love having you. Thank you so much for your perspective and your thoughts on the transformative process. I am still waiting for that lesson in patience.
Maybe
Thank
next
you so
time.
much.
You
That's
bet.
right. That's right.